Okay, got a few people here already. It's 6:30. We're just about to start the Ice Lake Road South Master Plan webinar, and we will wait for a couple more minutes just to see if any more people show up here. So just hang tight for a minute or two, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think we'll get going. Um, Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Darcy McCord. I'm a senior planner here at the City of Whitehorse. I'm joined this evening by Johanna, also a planner at the city and working on this project, and Matthias, who will, excuse me, provide a presentation coming up shortly. Before we get started, I just wanted to go through a few housekeeping items for this presentation. So for the first part of the presentation, we'll be presenting the plan. The attendees' mics and cameras are disabled, so you can sit and listen. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free. There's a Q&A button, should be at the top of your screen. And you can enter a question anytime, and we'll respond to that after the presentation. If you're having any technical difficulties or you wanted us to speak up or something like that, you can also use the chat function as well, which is at the top of the screen. Once the presentation is over, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. And if you can, again, type a question into the Q&A, or if you would like to speak, you can use the raise hand button at the top of the screen, and we will enable your microphone, and you can ask your question verbally if you prefer to do that. I think with that, just one other note, this webinar is being recorded so that anybody who's not able to make it this evening can, excuse me, can watch the presentation later. And it will be posted on our project page at engagewhitehorse.ca on the Ice Lake Road South Master Plan page. So I think with that, we'll get started. So the first part of the we'll start off with an introduction of project staff, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague Matthias here, who's the consultant working on the plan, and he'll go over the project, the process. And how we kind of develop the land use concept, engage the public, and kind of present the draft master plan. Starting, we'll move on to project staff here, Matthias. So again, my name is Darcy McCord. I'm a senior planner here at the city. Johanna is also there. She can wave for you if you like. And Johanna and I are the two people at the in the planning department at the city who have been leading this project. The consultant working on the project is Three Picas, and that's led by Simone Lapointe, who is not with us this evening, and Matthias Verdon, who will turn it over to shortly. The project area is has two landowners. The government of Yukon owns the bulk of the land, and there's one Kwanlundan First Nation settlement parcel within the planning area as well. And so we've been kind of working together between the city, the consulting team, and the landowners to work through producing this plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matthias to take it from here.
Awesome, thanks, Darcy. And yeah, great to be here presenting. Yeah, my name's Matthias. I'm with Three Picas. I'm a planner in Whitehorse, and yeah, I'm just gonna do a quick overview of the project, get into some of the features of the draft plan, and how it was created, and yeah, then we'll have a discussion at the end and answer your questions. So yeah, without any delay, I'll just hop right into it. So what is a master plan? So it's really about a guide for development of a site. These are developed in many different municipalities. And it includes a whole bunch of different considerations, of land use, servicing and infrastructure, sustainability, etc. And it's overall vision, a land use concept, and policies are sort of the main pillars of a master plan. And they're interdisciplinary projects. You saw in the overview that it's urban planners, us at Three Picas, and the city planners, and then we have the municipal engineers, both consultants, ISL and Greenwood Engineering Solutions, and then also the engineers of the city, environmental planners, etc. So where are we talking about? The Ice Lake Road Master Plan planning area is along the Alaska Highway, kind of around the way station. It's between Ice Lake and the Ice Lake Road, and the Alaska Highway. Metropolitan Lane, if you're familiar, is an existing development. To the south, there's some vacant land, undeveloped land, throughout most of the site, as well as the way station. We have KDFN's parcel C86B along the highway, and then the remainder is government of Yukon land. So the purpose of the plan is really to balance diverse and sometimes competing considerations. So for the natural environment and valued sensitive features, development costs, market conditions, and economic viability, the adjacent land uses, heritage values, community amenities, existing and required transportation and servicing infrastructure. So what's there and what would be needed to service the development, employment and population growth. So talking about, the economic opportunity that this land development could pose, and existing and desired land uses and compatibility. So when we're talking about compatibility, that means we want a development that fits within the existing development framework, and is designed in such a way to enhance compatibility. So the process. So this has been a year-long process. Developing the master plan. We started a year ago, and even before that, there were actually baseline studies completed and pre-planning feasibility studies. So environmental site assessments, heritage overview assessment, heritage impact assessment, and desktop geotech. All that was done before the master plan process started, but we did start in May of last year. Information gathering. We did a site visit, and then after that we started developing the land use concept, and we had a design charrette with different experts and the landowners there. And we developed a couple of scenarios, which then were part of this survey, which went out in August 2023, which we completed a What We Heard report on, which you can see on the Engage Whitehorse website. And then once we had our preferred concept, we advanced to the master plan process, writing the plan, and now we're at a stage where we're presenting the draft master plan and looking for input before it goes forward for consideration from the City Council. So even before those feasibility studies were done and this master plan began, there was a commercial industrial land study completed in 2020, which identified the need for more industrial and commercial lands, in the near future and then projecting forward to 2040. So the Ice Lake Road South area that we're talking about today, and that's part of this master plan, was identified as a potentially suitable development area to fulfill that need that was identified through that study. Talking more about planning done previously, we have the official community plan, so that was updated in 2023. This is part of the South Growth area, so an area of the city that is identified in the official community plan for more development. Yeah, it's designated, in line with that for industrial/commercial use, as well as First Nation development designations. As I talked about previously, we have had some desktop suitability feasibility studies, and then also as we entered the planning process, we did actually have an additional study done to look at the bedrock depth throughout the site, and we'll talk more about that soon. So developing the land use concept. So essentially, what this slide is about and what we're trying to articulate here is that there's lots of different iterations or steps to developing the concept you see in the master plan, the draft master plan today. So we know we started with a design workshop. We're sketching. We're talking about the site, the different constraints, the opportunities, and then we're developing options. So, and then we did the survey. We got some more information regarding the site from the ground penetrating radar and some more input from experts. And then, it changes again. And then, as we move into the draft concept that's in the plan, that has had a lot of input and a lot of different iterations that's behind it. And it's not the end of the design process, but it's something that hopefully holds some water and has lots of input given into it. And really the design process is also about balancing, the vision, the values, the goals, the priorities, the capacity and the constraints, addressing existing and future potential issues and opportunities. And there's always overlap between those things and compromises that you're working through. So I'll talk a bit about engagement. We did a survey based on on the preferred concept, and we had some background information out of that time. So we had over 700 visits to the project page, and 93 survey submissions, and 4 social media posts. And I'll just go quickly over some of the responses to the survey. So we asked, for the lot you'd want to purchase or lease, what areas of Whitehorse are the most attractive, and respondents, talked about, the different neighborhood or the development areas that they would prefer. What are some of the must-haves for a commercial industrial lot? Easy for customers and clients to find was a big one. Connection to municipal water and sewer, and a bit of a preference around half hectare to a hectare in size. So larger lots seem to come up. And we also wanted to get input on how people are using the site today. So the site is undeveloped, but there's definitely use there. We identified hiking, biking, foraging as some of the major uses among those who responded to the survey. Um, And we had this conceptual design or this preliminary concept that we were eliciting feedback on. Um, what people liked about it was that uh, the location, and you can see at the bottom there's prospective buyers, like those who said that they were in the market and those who said they weren't, and so there was a bit of a discrepancy there. People who were in the market liked the location, whereas those who weren't didn't like it as much or didn't pick that as their top one. uh, the incorporation of green space, we had some positive response on that, which is good. And you'll see that the draft concept actually has quite a bit of green space incorporated. We also wanted input on the access. So as we started this planning process, we identified two ways to access the planning area, one from the Alaska Highway near the weigh scales, and another from Hamilton Boulevard, and then kind of going along on a frontage road. And there was more support for the Alaska Highway access option, in particular among those who were interested in purchasing a lot. And I'll talk a little bit about the advantages and considerations that went into the access that we did end up choosing, which was the Alaska Highway. Some general things that we heard too, we heard that, we should maintain trail connections and access through the site. Incorporate green space and setbacks in Ice Lake. And then, as I was saying, the highway access is the more preferred one. So the framework of the master plan. So there's lots here, and we're not going to be able to get into all of it, but I'm going to go over all these pillars of the plan, and do a quick overview. And then if you have questions or things that you want to talk about, certainly enter them into the chat and or put your hand up when we get to the Q&A. So the vision, I'll just read this. It's the overarching, direction for the plan. So Ice Lake Road South is an employment hub connected to the Alaska Highway Corridor and integrated with the evolving long-term commercial and industrial development and green space fabric of the area. The City of Whitehorse vision is a forward-thinking industrial and commercial subdivision in the Ice Lake area, strategically positioned along the Alaska Highway Corridor. Following the direction set in the City of Whitehorse's official community plan, the plan embraces the unique opportunities that this location offers to create a greenfield development that capitalizes on highway-oriented commercial potential and is a conducive environment for diverse industrial enterprises. The Ice Lake Road South area seeks to harmonize economic growth with environmental responsibility, ensuring an ongoing supply of employment lands for a thriving and growing Whitehorse. Through YG, KDFN, and City of Whitehorse collaboration, the Ice Lake Road South is designed to connect to anticipated future growth areas to the north and overcome site constraints to maximize industrial and commercial opportunities while retaining green spaces and trail connections. So there's the vision, and and it's a draft, right? So if there's things that you want to talk about in terms of the vision, please bring them up. So here's the plan. So I'll talk a little bit about the design here and what features it has. So you'll see you're accessing the area from the Alaska Highway near the way station, and that would be most likely a four-way signalized intersection similar to what was built along the highway near the airport and Hillcrest Drive. So we see the KDFN parcel is as it is now, it's close to the grade of the highway, and it's oriented towards the highway, and we've double loaded the lots on both sides of the road to sort of maximize the amount of developable space along that roadway. There's greenways through to maintain connection through the site for pedestrians and cyclists. And we're whereas the upper area that I'll talk about later is kind of up higher on the site. There is a grade difference. This one is really oriented towards commercial opportunities, highway commercial opportunities with the highway being there, and the proximity to that really important corridor through the city. And then moving up to the YG areas, the upper development area. So a roadway would have to be constructed that goes up the hill that's there. And then there would be a roadway to the north and to the south, and then there's a potential for a future connection to the Ice Lake Road North area, which was also identified in the OCP and previous planning for development that's similar in nature. There's a buffer, a 30-meter buffer between the border of the planning area and the Ice Lake Road. It's a green space buffer, and the development is set back from the Ice Lake area and is in an effort to avoid any kind of environmental impacts to that more sensitive area. You can see, also in the upper area, greenway connections, and yeah, so that'll actually maintain some of the existing trail network, which we'll get into too. And lots of green space, and you might ask, why is there so much green space? There are some environmental, existing constraints here around slopes and bedrock. So the upper area to the south has more bedrock, and there's that grade, right, going from the highway and then up into this upper development area that we've put together here. So I've put a picture of Mount Sema because that's the roadway would kind of look like that, right? It's a rural sort of road with ditches. Then there's the highway commercial development at Metropolitan. Those kinds of businesses that have a road orientation, commercial developments of that kind. You might see that along the highway in the more highway oriented area, or even in the upper development area. Green space and trails plan. The existing power line trail is maintained. The Rock Gardens Trail is the one trail that would have to be rerouted as part of this development. And the idea here is that it would be connected to the road network, and then there would be a reroute developed through an area that has already been cleared out for an old logging trail. Maybe I'll leave it at that, but there's definitely lots to talk about in terms of the trails plan. And it's really, yeah, I guess the main thing is, it's single track trails, similar to what's existing there today. The servicing, the site doesn't have any piped water or sewer at the moment, similar to the adjacent development. And there's none envisioned for that area to be brought up in the near term. So the servicing scenario or development scenario is no on-site, or is on-site servicing. So a combination of holding tanks and pump outs and or wells and septic. Stormwater is collected with ditches and swales, and a signalized roundabout or a roundabout intersection of Alaska Highway. So a combination, or one or the other, but something that controls the movements through that area. Okay, so I've made it through, and yeah, hopefully there's lots of questions in the chat. And yeah, I'll hand it over here to Darcy, just to talk a little bit about the next steps for the planning process, and then we'll start up the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Matthias. So yeah, the next steps, we're in the sort of public input phase on the draft plan. So this webinar is part of that. We have a survey that's open as well until till June 16th. And that after the 16th, that'll sort of close off the public input or comment period on the draft plan. And all the input that we gather through these various means will be provided to Matthias and his team to sort of incorporate that as appropriate into the final proposed master plan. From there, there is uh, um, we'll provide a copy of that to the landowners to review and have a chance to sort of look at the final plan. And we will the city administration will bring the draft or the proposed plan to city council for consideration of approval. So the anticipated date for introducing that to city council is August 5th. And after that, there's a series of meetings that it goes through in this council cycle, including there will be like a formal public input session where people can provide their comments directly to council, and council can consider those when they're weighing whether to approve the plan or not. And if all goes kind of according to the plan, then we'd be looking at council potentially or making a decision in September. I'm afraid I don't have the exact date, but it's sort of mid to late December would be the date that this plan could potentially be adopted. Um, so that's the end of the presentation part, and we can move into the Q&A. So again, there should be a button at the top of your screen called Q&A, and you can click on that and enter. You can type in a question if you like. If you'd like to ask a question verbally, you can raise your hand and we'll enable your mic, and you can do it that way. And yeah, so let us know what questions you have. It's a pretty shy group here. Hopefully everyone's just furiously typing away. Okay, we've got a question coming in from guest. Thinking that's not their real name, but that's no problem. The question is, when is it expected to be for sale? So the master planning process is kind of sets the stage for development to start. And it kind of provides the sort of the city framework for how it should be laid out, and what the land uses should be, and provide some guidance on kind of starting to dig into more detailed design. Ultimately, the actual development of the subdivision is directed by the landowners. So that's Government of Yukon and Kwanlundan First Nation. So they would be driving that development stage. So doing the detailed design, going through zoning amendment and subdivision application, and then doing the actual construction, surveying the lots, and then selling them. So we don't have a firm timeline on that, and it can kind of vary depending on the pace at which the developers proceed. But like at a sort of fast pace, it's going to be at least 2 or 3 years, I would expect. And if things don't get kicked off right away, or if there's delays for any other reasons, it could be longer than that. So it's at least a few years, and could be longer. We've got another question here from Alan. With on-site servicing required in lots half hectare or larger, there are lots of risk to the actual viability of the development. And you've quoted a few different, you quoted section 5.2 of the plan. The question is, shouldn't they consider making lots larger to increase the business case viability of these lots? And when will this additional analysis be completed? And why wasn't it done before just deciding on the master plan? Thanks, Alan. Great questions. So the half hectares would be the minimum lot size, and that would be kind of that's prescribed by the zoning bylaw. It says where lots are not serviced by municipal water and sewer, that the lot size needs to be at least half a hectare. It doesn't mean that lots couldn't be larger than that. But that's it would be kind of up to the developers and through the process of detailed design to decide what the kind of target lot sizes would be, and potentially it could be a mix of lot sizes as well. So the 0.5 that's quoted in the plan is the minimum, and there could be some variability there in terms of the final size. Yeah, it's tricky for the city to sort of prescribe like a larger minimum lot size when there's already a zoning regulation that talks about half hectares being that minimum. But again, depending on the market demand and various factors, it could be that some or all of the lots end up being larger than that.
I can add to a little bit just the in the design process, we there, because of the steeper slopes, it isn't conducive to really large lots. So we knew we weren't working with like those 3 or 4 hectare lots that are out in SEMA that there's a few of. That we were dealing with something kind of closer to the minimum lot size in terms of the sizing. But yeah, as Darcy said, the lotting will come later, and there's options to offer a range of lot sizes.
Thanks for that additional information, Matthias. Another question from guest. Is the plan for the lots to be undeveloped, as in not cleared or graded? Do you want to speak to that, Matthias?
Sorry, I'm just looking for the. Are they going to be graded? Yeah. So yeah. There's a couple of options on how to do that. The lots could be pre-graded by the developer, and that would, so the developer could come, the site is graded, and all that, the clearing's been done, and they can just set up, or they could be sold as is, and then the developer, the purchaser of the lot or the leaser of the lot would then be responsible for doing all the grading, to meet their needs, basically for their whatever they want to do with the lot. And then there are some options in between with the construction, because when the road is built, there will be some excess fill, so there may be a bit of fill available to do some pre-grading, and not all of the pre-grading on the lot, so sort of a hybrid. And that's something that that can be sorted out in detail design, but yeah, there's, depending on the market forces and what people want, they could be pre-graded, or they could be left as is.
Great. Thanks, Matthias. There's another question from Jean. What is the definition of commercial industrial, and how is it compatible with highway commercial and the adjacent property? Thanks for that question. So the term commercial industrial is coming from the official community plan. It's one of the land use designations that's one of many land use designations that's applied throughout the city. And the commercial industrial designation in particular kind of contemplates commercial uses that are a little bit leaning less or leaning away from you know, like retail and eating and drinking and that sort of thing, and leaning a little bit more towards industrial type uses light manufacturing and um, um, what other uses have we got? Storage, warehousing, um, and oh, sorry. Um, Yeah, light manufacturing, processing, and/or agriculture, warehousing are examples of uses that would be suitable in the industrial commercial land use designation. And in terms of that, how it interacts with that highway commercial idea. So the highway commercial, what's provided in the plan is suggesting that the KDFN settlement parcel or the highway frontage area could be a CH zone, a highway commercial zone, and that is a zone that's considered to be sort of an appropriate zone within the industrial commercial designation. Um, but I do want to point out that the KDFN parcel it's not designated industrial commercial. It has its own special designation called First Nation Development Lands, and those ones are basically intended to enable the for KDFN to develop in accordance with its rights outlined in the self-government agreement, and to sort of leave the door open that the KDFN can develop in a way that's most beneficial for that for the First Nation and for its citizens. That parcel is designated as a for revenue generation. So it is kind of like it is like a sort of meant for commercial activity that provides revenue for for KDFN. But again, it could be sort of any range of uses that's contemplated in the self-government agreement. The plan itself suggests that highway commercial is an appropriate use, and is based on conversations with KDFN. They're sort of comfortable with that being the kind of like a placeholder, and being the sort of the direction that the development of the area could take. And they're also aware that if they were to deviate significantly from what's contemplated in this master plan, that there would be a process required to revisit the master plan and potentially make amendments to it if they wanted to deviate from that. Do you have anything to add on that, Matthias?
No, that's great, Darcy. Yeah, no, sounds good. I mean it's industrial commercial is a bit, it's industrial uses, but lighter industrial uses. It's not really heavy. Like you're not going to see a batch plant under that designation. So it's allowing for some of these lighter industrial uses as well as some commercial use. So it kind of you can imagine, around actually Metropolitan Lane has some industrial commercial lands that are developed. So if you want to get a flavor for what kind of developments are allowable under those designations and the subsequent zoning that would come later, you can have a look there.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for pointing that out. And yeah, like the land use designation of Metropolitan Lane is commercial industrial as well. And the zoning for the most part is CAM, the mixed commercial industrial zone. So that's right. That does give a pretty good sort of sense of the types of uses that you might be likely to see in this new subdivision. There is another question from Jean, and then I see Alan has added another question. I'll get to that in a moment. Does industrial allow for a salvage area? Not likely. So the recommended zoning CIM is a mixed use commercial industrial zone, and the list of permitted uses. Oh well, actually, sorry, my mistake. I was looking in alphabetical order, and it's under it's under industrial salvage, which so yeah, that actually does include the potential for some industrial salvage activity, and just keeping in mind again, that's still the same zoning as Metropolitan Lane. Just give me 1 second here. I'm just going to check one other detail, just to make sure I give you the right answer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So all of Metropolitan Lane, with the exception of one lot that's zoned CH, the remainder. Oh, the remainder is zoned CIM, mixed industrial commercial. So it's an industrial salvage is as likely or as unlikely in this new subdivision as it would be in this existing CIM zone area. Let's just go back to Alan here. Section 5.3, the feasibility of on-site septic disposal systems will be determined in subsequent stages and or permitting processes with environmental health. Similar to water, why isn't the feasibility being done now? And with all these different constraints, shouldn't we be making sure that you can actually use these lots? And wouldn't this information make the plan better informed regarding lot size? Yeah, thanks for that question, Alan. I think Matthias will agree. It's always a challenge to sort of when you're at the master plan stage and trying to work out the land use and the layout and that sort of thing. It's always a challenge to know how much information you require at the master plan stage before you move into that further detailed design. So in this case, absolutely, there's there are some unanswered questions and we're aware of that. But at the same time, this master plan doesn't lock things down to like a really rigid layout or really rigid lot sizes or design. Like it provides the flexibility for the design to sort of be adjusted to accommodate those conditions as more information becomes available. So it's not that this information will never be gathered, but we're comfortable that that we have enough information now to kind of sort of set this high level picture of how it should be laid out and what the uses should be. And as we move into detailed design, that can help inform questions like lot size and questions about what type of sewage or septic disposal system is going to be appropriate for these lots. It could also be that that information kind of limits the range of uses that could be allowed in this area. So, for example, a caretaker residence, in addition to the commercial use, might be too much for a small lot, and there might not be the capacity to accommodate that. So again, that will sort of come out as the detailed design becomes available, and the design can be kind of adjusted to accommodate that information.
Yeah, I might add to just there is I think what's being flagged there is that there's uncertainty regarding how servicing will look at detailed design based on the results of an intrusive geotechnical investigation that's being suggested. So in essence, they, you know, based on the depth of the bedrock and the slopes, there could be some different scenarios for how the on-site servicing would work. At the end of the day, you can do tanks really like that is viable, and that's what the engineering report said. However, wells and septic need a bit more investigation to ensure that we're not making a recommendation that they will work at this stage because we don't have enough information. So that's it's flagging it as a next step.
Great. Thanks, Matthias. Another question from Jean. I'm not quite sure I understand the question. I'm guessing you mean what other surveys are required? Metropolitan Lane is highway commercial. So I'm not quite sure what that's getting at. But yeah, I just want to clarify, like the zoning of all the lots on Metropolitan Lane, except for one. Well, sort of. Oh, sorry, I am looking at that a little bit wrong. It's kind of half and half. There's a mix of highway commercial lots kind of on the end towards Hamilton Boulevard. And then the kind of the I'll call it the back half or the northern half is CIM. That's the mixed industrial commercial zone. So it is kind of a mix of zoning there. Again, the land use designation in the official community plan for the entire area is industrial commercial. And as I was explaining with the suggested zoning for this Ice Lake Road South area, both the CIM zone and the CH zone are appropriate zones within the industrial commercial official community plan designation. So I hope that answers that question, but if not, then feel free to clarify. Another question, visual mitigation is only required between the Alaska Highway, not between Yukon Gardens and the new development, and why? So visual mitigation, there are the official community plan and the zoning bylaw both speak about like the highway itself being kind of like a gateway to the city, and that there should be a higher standard of development that kind of presents the city in an attractive way, and that some of the more kind of like unsightly uses should be screened from view from the highway. So that kind of follows the whole highway corridor. In terms of like visual mitigation between different properties, that's not typically required. So like any neighborhood, like whether it's a residential or commercial or industrial neighborhood, if you have a use beside a similar use, there's not a requirement to provide visual mitigation because those uses are already similar. You're already expecting to have neighbors doing similar things. And so there's not that requirement wouldn't be a sort of a typical approach to development. In terms of like abutting the lots, though, like the lots at the north end of Metropolitan Lane, there's a bit of overlap with the KDFN parcel, the highway frontage area, and then the rest of it you can see in the land use concept. Most of the rest of that area is proposed to remain as green space for now. So the actual sort of interface or the contact area between the existing development on Metropolitan Lane and any new development is a pretty short stretch there compared to the overall Metropolitan Lane development area there. Right. That was lots of really good questions. If anyone else has any more questions, obviously we've got a hand raised here for Lauren. And Go ahead. I think your mic's been enabled there, Lauren. If you want to turn it on, you can start speaking. Not sure if you're speaking yet there. You might have to just click or tap the mic icon, um, and hopefully we'll be able to hear you soon. Still nothing. Sorry, Lauren, I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, still not, looks like your mic is still turned off
Can you hear
there.
me now?
There we go. Yeah, I can hear you.
A couple of quick questions.
Sure thing.
What date is the next face-to-face meeting regarding the subdivision? Second question is, there is a strong wildlife corridor that's been between the two subdivisions. I don't see that anywhere in there. The third question is, now, understand if you do a subdivision relating to the bylaws, that you have to give up 10% of the property, either sold or given. Is the First Nations will they be doing this?
Great. I'm going to answer those questions in not in that order. I'll start with the public use land dedication question. So yes, you're referring to a requirement in the subdivision control bylaw. If you're subdividing land that's either never been subdivided or has been or was or lots that were created before a certain date, I think sometime back in the 90s, that you're required to provide public use land dedication as which is you either provide 10% of the land that you're subdividing to the municipality, or in some instances, you might instead provide cash in lieu of that 10%. So you provide a cash contribution to the municipality instead of providing the land. It's up to the municipality which option is done there. And the purpose is to provide land for public use. So new development creates more people and more intensity of use, and so it kind of increases the need to provide land for public use, whether it's parkland or it just remains as sort of undeveloped green space, that sort of thing. So yeah, the YG land would be subject to that, and they would be identifying through the subdivision design where and how much public use land dedication would be provided, and that would then be transferred over to the city to retain for as green space would be the likely outcome in this case. The First Nation the subdivision control bylaw actually has a special exemption written in there, because First Nations, their settlement land, like they couldn't give it to the municipality even if they wanted to. That settlement land, when it's locked in through the final agreement, self-government agreement, they don't have an opportunity to actually permanently dispose of that land. So what the subdivision control bylaw says is that some like negotiated agreement would be made with the First Nation, but it's the city like doesn't have the ability to compel them to provide that 10%. That being said, the land use concept does provide an area of green space in the kind of northwest corner of the KDFN land, and the intent there is that's kind of suggested that would be the area that that KDFN and the city agree to retain as public use land rather than developed land. Let's work backwards a little bit. The middle question was about wildlife. Matthias, would you mind, would you be able to respond to that question? What wildlife information sort of helped to inform the plan?
Yeah, for sure. We did review sort of the known information from Environment Yukon that's housed on the Geo Yukon, and we didn't see any areas of concern or areas of special habitat value within the planning area. And then, you know, to the notion of a corridor, there are lots of places, in the Paddy Pond area, the Nice Lake area, where we know animals move through. And the the green space that, like, having an extensive green space retained, hopefully can continue to allow some habitat use within the development area, and movement of animals. But yeah, the idea is to sort of strike a balance. And but yeah, we didn't see any high value habitat within the planning area.
Great. Thanks, Matthias. And Lauren's question number one was, when will the next opportunity for the public to comment on this? So the next opportunity for public comment will be when the proposed, like the final proposed master plan goes to council for consideration of adoption. And the tentative schedule that we're working with would be that we introduce it to council on August 5th. And council would hold a public input session either on August 26th or September 9th. So that date hasn't been firmed up yet, but it would be at a regular council meeting, and it would be one of those two meetings, either August 26th or September 9th. If you subscribe to the project, if you haven't already, on our Engage Whitehorse page, we'll make sure to post updates on the schedule as it moves into that council process, and we'll be able to firm up the date through by that point. And Johanna has posted the link.
Yeah, I just
to
dropped
the
the link to the website and in the chat there.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Great. Are there any other questions? Again, feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to say your question, or you can type it into the Q&A as well. Lauren, have you got another question there? So your hand is raised.
Yeah, once again, I like to give them in threes.
Okay.
What do we do to make sure we have a meeting before the council? Because first of all, I don't know if you knew it, there was technical difficulties, so we missed part of the front part of it. It started and then it cut out. I think you must be aware of that. Second of all, I think it'd be far better to have a meeting face to face rather than a technical one with this, where it's a little more difficult for others to get involved. I understand that 41% of the property is being utilized. What is the projected cost in setting up this entire subdivision? And will it be a city taxpayers paying this? Is this really going to be a worthwhile project? And the other thing is, I do know that there are water issues. And that's the end of my questions.
Okay. I'm not sure that last one is a question, but I think we can probably find a question to answer in that. In terms of, so I'll go to that cost question. This development wouldn't be funded by the city. So in following like the typical development process, the developer pays for the development and then recoups their their cost through lot sales. So again, the two landowners who are involved here, Yukon Government and Kwamandun First Nation, both of those landowners would be the ones deciding how and when to develop their land, and deciding whether or not the development is feasible, and whether they have a chance of developing and recovering the cost of that. So no, it would not be a city taxpayer funded development. And to answer, I wasn't aware that there was a technical difficulty, and I'm not sure if that was just you or if it was everyone. But we have recorded this entire thing. So if there's a part at the beginning that you missed, it will be you'll be able to watch that again, and get any sort of information that you might have missed. And then in terms of public or like a meeting, an opportunity to speak face to face, we can we can meet with you if you'd like to do that. We haven't planned any sort of like publicly invited like in-person events, but if you wanted to come in or set up a meeting that to chat more about it, that's just let me know. We can set that up for you. Great. All right. Well, 7:30.
I think we had one more question in the Q&A chat. What other surveys are required?
Okay, thanks for that question. Can I just ask for a bit of clarification what you mean by surveys? I'm just not sure if you're talking about like surveying the public for what they think about it, or if you're talking more about like the the legal surveying process for laying out the lots and that sort of thing.
I mean, I can speak a little bit in surveys.
Okay. Oh
yeah.
Water and environmental. Are you able to speak to that? And maybe you could talk, Matthias, a little bit more about what background work has been gathered already.
Yeah, so the doing the master plan, we do a look at the environmental values that are there, and we don't want to just plan without looking at what's existing and what information's available. And so we have done that scan, but there is an environmental assessment under YESAB that would be triggered before and the development could go forward, most likely. So there may be other environmental surveys that are then required through that process, or other information that would come forward, and then they would follow up on that. In terms of the water piece, it is the development is going to manage water on site, and that's the direction that we've given in the plan. So there shouldn't be water running off of the site into into Ice Lake is really the only receiving waters that could be affected by that. So the design of the project, as it advances, should articulate how the water is going to get managed on site, through ditches, swales, or like constructed wetlands, essentially infiltration areas. One thing that we are cognizant in the design is that because of the hill slope, we need more green space basically to allocate space to manage runoff from lots, and and to accommodate some of those drainage features that will be needed to be designed in detailed design. I guess I should say there was also an environmental site assessment. So the area was surveyed for contaminated sites and contamination risk. A phase 1 was done, and a phase 2 was completed to do some soil sampling behind the weigh scales, and return no contamination or no concerns.
And Jean just added a comment. Water source isn't great. I think if you're talking about like the potential for well water, we have sort of heard anecdotally that, from some other sources that could be the case as well, and that would be tested and verified through the kind of more detailed stages later on. And if well water isn't viable, then it might be a situation where water delivery is the preferred option instead. Okay, we're slowing down here. Is there any other questions before we wrap it up? Okay, Jean says thanks. Thank you as well. Definitely appreciate your engagement. I saw Glenda had her hand up briefly. Glenda, were you wanting to say something? You've enabled your mic now, so you just have to turn it on before you start speaking. And if you're speaking, we can't hear you yet. But I could just add while we wait, Glenda is a planner at Kwanlundan First Nation, so I appreciate that you've attended this evening. And Glenda's comment, can't figure out how to turn on the mic. If you're on like a PC, there should be at the top of your screen, there should be a mic button that you could just click. And if you're on a phone, I'm not quite sure, but I think you might have to maybe tap it to sort of to reveal the mic options. Oh, it says it's grayed out with a line through it. I wonder, and saw you'd kind of come in under a couple different names there. So I wonder if we can maybe. Yeah, it should be enabled there. I only see it here once, so. Yeah, and unfortunately we can't we can't turn it on from this end. But I'll give you a couple more seconds to see if you can see if it starts working. Okay, you've typed in a comment. Great. I just wanted to mention that the way KDFN makes its land available is different than YG. So we have more flexibility in terms of lot sizes, etc. That's great. Thank you, Glenda, for clarifying that. But yeah, it's good to know. Thanks.
I think I should also note just that, as we went through the planning process, we got a lot of input from Glenda and her team, and all the discipline experts from the city, KDFN and YG. So it's a collaborative process, and yeah, we appreciate everyone's contributions, and as well as the public, weighing in and at this meeting, and then in the survey, and yeah, certainly let us know if you have other questions or things come up.
Okay. I think we'll leave it there then. It seems like kind of questions have slowed down, and I'm not seeing any new ones. So thank you again to everyone for spending part of your evening with us tonight, and we really appreciate your interest in the project and your engagement. So thank you for that. And our guest says, delicious dinner begging to be eaten. So yeah, thank you. And go enjoy that dinner. And Ben Campbell says, thanks for the presentation overview. Thank you as well, Ben, for everything. Ben, by the way, is the YG representative. So I really appreciate you joining us this evening as well. And with that, I will say thanks, Matthias. Thank you, Johanna, and thanks for everyone for coming. Please, if you haven't already, you can go to the project page, and there's a subscribe button there. You can put in your email address, and we'll update you as the project moves along. And let us know what you think, and let council know what you think when the plan gets in front of them for consideration. So I think that's that. Any final words, Matthias or Johanna?
All for me. Thanks
Okay.
very much, everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Appreciate
not
it.
from either, but thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll sign off then. Thanks, everyone.